Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the what I call this, the review hour. I forget. It's been a while. Today, I'll be reviewing the new Resident Evil CG movie. Wait, hold that thought. Yes, Death Island. For the record, I did enjoy it. Resident Evil, of course, I enjoyed it. Tangent. I will not be finishing my playthrough of Resident Evil 4. Just because I like the game, I want to play the game, but considering I know how the story plays out because it's a remake, I don't feel that, I guess you'd say that the passion to play it, so to speak. But that's that. This is this. Let's hop into it. It's nice. It's a good movie. It did bring back Claire, Jill, and Rebecca, which is nice. Rebecca was in the last one, which was Vendetta, which was good. I liked it. Should have reviewed that one too. That would have been nice. But it opened with the evacuation of Raccoon City, which we got to see a different side because we see the side of the heroes, doing their thing, escaping the city. But then on the flip side, this showed the evacuation from Umbrella's standpoint. There's a few people who were a little hesitant about oh, let's evacuate the Umbrella politician and let's save the politicians and higher ups in Umbrella. They're more concerned about that. And they're like, what about the people? It's like, mow them down if they try to escape. And these two guys were like, oh no, what do we do? And then their team got infected, and then they had to kill them all just to escape. Then right after that was the opening credits, and it gave a rundown from the series from everything from the Spencer Mansion, with the exception of 0, the Spencer Mansion through 6. So if I remember the timeline correctly, this would take place after 6. This was I think it was Vendetta, 6, and then this in timeline, because then you got 7 and Village, and then the Village DLC, which I never finished either because mannequins now scare me. Sorry, kind of, not really. No, sorry, my notes are in my lap, so if you see me looking down, I apologize. The CG and everything, it looks beautiful. It was nice. I mean, parts of it, you could tell you're okay, the motion capture probably didn't capture everything they wanted, or maybe not the way they wanted, but it was beautiful altogether. And it'd be kind of cool if they can. And sorry for the squeaky chair. It'd be kind of cool if they could I guess, transition that to games a little bit better. Because I mean, it looked beautiful. Resident Evil 4, the remake looks beautiful too. So I don't know. I'm not a game developer, game designer, nothing like that. Jill looks like she hasn't aged since Resident Evil 3, and I actually read something. The reason she looks like that, and I think they explain it in the games, but I can't say for sure. She was infected with the T virus back in Resident Evil 3, which would take place in the 90s. So it's kind of interesting, but it kind of makes you wonder if everyone else wasn't because Leon was infected with a virus a couple times actually. He looks like he's getting older. Rebecca, was she? I don't remember. I know Claire wasn't. The jump scares and the tension are there. Right off the bat, Jill enters a house. She kills a couple zombies. The jump scare was there. The tension, oh crap, is she gonna get got? It's just it was for me, it was playing the game. It was very nice. Crystal looks like the boulder punching asshole that he is. Yeah. So the virus was Return of the T virus. Scary stuff. Nemesis scared me. I liked the new villain. His name was Dylan something. He was a former Umbrella operative. He was the only survivor of his team in Raccoon City. My take was he looked like Ethan Hawke and Kevin Bacon had a love child. And that's not a knock on his appearance. He literally looks like a cross between the two. And when I look at Ethan Hawke and Kevin Bacon, they look similar to me anyway. So it seemed like a fitting, observation. the new T virus seems to spread faster, and it made the zombies more agile. It made them more terrifying. Cause like they'll jump, and then you don't know how they're getting infected because some of them weren't getting bit. And then they actually explain it later in the movie. They're like little nano like things. Like you'd have to like really be looking at it to see like this little fly buzzing around and it bites you and everything else. Jill, of course, is still badass. You know, sexy female Leon, as I call her. And it's like the first time we actually get to see Leon and Jill interact. And it was weird because they knew each other. But this is the first time we actually see them interact together on screen. But it was interesting because like there's a there's a Resident Evil book. It takes place like there's a series of them. Actually, I have it on my bookshelf, but I don't have it for reference. It was like it's not Dead City. It's something. What was it called? Yeah, I know exactly which one it is. I'm not gonna go grab it, but I'm gonna go see. Underworld. That's what it was. Resident Evil Underworld. That's the one that it was. In that book, Leon, Claire, Rebecca, and Jill, if I remember correctly, and like some other guy, they take down an umbrella, black site or something, like, you know, infection, everything else. And in that book, they interact, but in the games and all sorts of like canon media, because I don't know if those books are even considered canon, they never interact, they never meet. So clearly they had to have met at some point, off camera, off screen, off whatever. You know, but it was interesting because, but when they first run into each other, they're fighting. It's of course, you know, typical fashion. Leon always fights the ladies. That's how he tracks them, apparently, you know. But Leon and Jill fighting side by side was pretty awesome to see because like their interaction, and then it's like, oh hey, how many of them are there? I'm not stopping to count them. And then Leon blows them all up, and he's like 0. And Jill's like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, there's 0. You wanted to know? You know, Leon's sass is still there. I did like some of the lines like from Leon, like like I said, he still has a sass. Like when him and Jill like they find like this hidden path to get to Chris and Claire. Once they find out like, you know, Jill's there because of the virus strain, Leon's there to find a scientist who's stuck there because he sold secrets to the enemy, and he was like breaking out of prison. It's like he sure knows how to show the ladies a good time. There he did that. Then back to the nano things. Like it was a creepy and a cool concept because it's like, you know, if the infection would spread like that, it's creepy because then it's like, you know, you never know what's gonna happen. Rebecca is the unsung hero. I know I'm bouncing around, but like Rebecca is the unsung hero of this movie. She developed a cure with the strand because she found some strand. She saved everybody. She's the only survivor of her team that came because there's a giant freaking mutated shark. Ugh. Scary. Ocean's scary enough. And then like throughout the whole movie, so like Leon runs into her at the beginning of the movie. He loses a bike, which he apparently loved. You know, and this girl like kicking everybody's ass, right? So she's actually the daughter of the villain from Resident Evil Vendetta. Like they killed her father, and that explains the end credits scene in that movie because then it transitions to this one. So it actually carries over, and that's what I like because like the other movies, like they reference each other, but there's not really like it's like they're even though they're canon, they're their own little individual thing. But Leon can't catch a break. It's like, is this man ever going to get his vacation, you know? And every time he goes to do something, he gets infected. He gets attacked. He's stuck in a biohazard situation. The one thing I didn't understand about the villain, though, is I don't get why Jill has to be the one to suffer specifically. Because, like, Leon, Claire, and Jill were all in Raccoon City. And it made no sense why her specifically, like, because in this movie she's established as like a lone wolf, whereas the last few movies Leon was that lone wolf. But it begs that question, like, why can't Chris be the one to suffer, even though he suffers like every game because he loses his team? You know, why can't Claire suffer? You know, she's the only one who doesn't seem to suffer at all. You know, nothing against Claire, or you know, Leon suffers enough as this, but why not? Why specifically Jill? And that doesn't really get touched on. It's just, oh, Jill, you're gonna sit here and watch your friends die. Okay, why her? You know, you don't imply that you know her. You don't imply that she did anything to you. You know, and if anything, it makes sense with Leon, with the villain girl, because he killed, well, him and Chris killed her father. But, you know, it makes no sense. There was a zombie shark at the end. It came and went. It fused with, not fused, like it merged with the guy because he turned himself into a tyrant. Became this gross, ugly, nemesis-looking thing towards the end. And Jill gets the big guns. You know, like this time it was what was it? It was a plasma rifle, yeah. And she just, you know, it doesn't hurt him, so then it's like whoopee, you know. But then they used all the weapons they found because they were in a weapons warehouse. They used those nanites that were sent out to the world, and they, you know, Rebecca was able to bring them back to attack the thing and cause it to basically force it to kill itself. And then they dropped, you know, this whole thing. Jill almost died. It was a little anticlimactic, but not as anticlimactic as when Leon fought. So the girl whose father died, her name is Maria, and her and Leon fight, and her death was anticlimactic because like they're fighting, and of course, you know, it's like, geez, Leon, get all the ladies, you know, they fight you, but you know, whatever. It's because he's a stud. It's because he's a stud. But like it was anticlimactic because like they're fighting. Next thing you know, like when it goes back to them, there's a pole sticking out of her chest, like because he just kicked her just right and it impaled her. And the fight was over. It was done. And it was like, well, gee, that was a good fight. And then it just ended. And it was like, okay, you know, whoopee, you know, what fun is that? A fight ends in anticlimactic fashion. You know, the final boss, same thing. Like it was just a little anticlimactic, which even for Resident Evil is saying something. Tyrant looked gross, that's for sure. And of course, Leon's always sassy, even when he's getting his ass beat. Jill always gets big guns, and then the touching ending was among the cast nights. Like they're like, oh, you know, we survived, you know, cool, you know, like it was a very touching moment. Like among them, you know, they kind of like reconciled and I guess touched on a few things and were like, hey, you know, we make a good team, let's work together, yay, you know, typical Power Rangers fashion. So like down to my final thoughts. I know this was kind of brief, but I'm trying not to make these drag on forever. I call it the review hour, and they're like 10-15 minute videos, but so overall, I thought the movie was good. It touched on a few things. It kind of answered a few questions from previous stuff, like, you know, where Claire and Jill been, or Claire, Jill, and Rebecca been. Even the last movie touched on that. The voice acting was great. Like I thought it was great. The actors seemed to really nail their roles in terms of voice and everything else. Dialogue did feel a little clunky, but I mean, overall it was decent. Like I enjoyed everything about it. Of course, it was good to see Claire and Jill back in that hero role, that capacity. Parts of it did feel clunky. Dialogue felt a little forced. But overall, it did still feel like a Resident Evil thing. Like, it still felt very Resident Evil. Because like, there are parts where there's no dialogue, and that's perfectly fine because, you know, you're trying to survive. And there's other parts where it seemed like there's good dialogue, other dialogues felt forced. So then it's like, okay, you know, so it was kind of 50-50. And of course, you know, Leon still needs that vacation. You know, I don't think he's ever gotten that vacation. My biggest complaint about the movie overall, before I give it a final grade, the villain, Dylan, his motives made no sense whatsoever. The reason I say that is because he had no issues, personal issues with the main cast, right? I mean, sure, he had to kill his best friend. I think his name was JJ, but he killed. He had to kill him because he got infected and everything else, and he was trying to be the good man, like, hey, don't kill these people, we'll get them help. Yada. Even though Umbrella was telling him, kill these guys, get them the hell out of here. We don't want them. Everything like that. Totally get it. Like, his motives for hating Umbrella would make sense if he was against Umbrella and did like in which one was Damnation. In Resident Evil Damnation, I forgot the guy's name. Curtis began with a C. He had a vendetta against a big corporation like Umbrella. He turned himself into a tyrant to take out them. Still evil, but it made more sense versus whereas with this Dylan guy, it was like, oh, hey, I'm going to kill you heroes because you only help the big guy, even though that's not the case. You see that across the media. But he has all this information. He has all this stuff on them, so he knows all this stuff. So he knows they're doing good. But the motivation behind him attacking them made no sense whatsoever. They didn't do anything to him. Umbrella caused all this hurt and pain. He had to kill his best friend. He walks with a cane. He plays Russian roulette, which makes no sense. And then he plays Russian roulette with a thing and it falls and, you know, all that. But that was my biggest complaint about the movie. His motives as a villain made no sense whatsoever. He was taking his frustrations on Umbrella and big businesses profiting off of these viruses and everything else, and took it out on the wrong people. Now, the other lady, Maria, like, she had motive to want Chris and Leon dead. They killed her father. Her father was evil, yes, you know, through and through, no question about it. He was straight up evil, but they killed him. So her motives to kill them would make sense, and it does make sense why she wants them dead and why she tried to kill Leon before the final boss fight. But overall, like, she should have been the main villain, not this Dylan guy. Like, it made no sense to me. You know, maybe I missed something. That is possible. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's something they left out that would have explained it more. But, like, okay, yeah, he had to kill his best friend. That would suck for anybody. Like, but take it out, because Umbrella still exists, I think, just under a different name. Take out Umbrella. So, okay, so yeah, Chris would be involved in that. But still, like, it makes no sense. And that is my biggest complaint. Like, overall, I would have graded this like B plus A minus because parts of it don't make it an A plus, but because the villain's motive made no sense, I'm not gonna give it a C. I'd give it like a B or a B minus. Like, it makes more sense in that sense. Like, if the villain made sense, I would grade it higher, but right now I'd give it like B minus, like somewhere in that range, higher than a C, lower than a B plus, because it's not A worthy solely based on the villain alone. But I digress. So that is my thoughts, opinions, and my odd review of Resident Evil Dead Island. I would recommend watching this. If you're a Resident Evil fan, I would recommend watching all the CG movies. But like this one, I do recommend because it gives you that whole cast together that people wanted to see together as one for years. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys